to go.
Okay, we are now live on YouTube. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Rushcliffe Borough Council Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Roger Upton, the chairman of this committee, and with us this afternoon are councillors Maureen Stockwood, the vice chairman, to my immediate left, and councillors Bailey, Gray, Healy, Mason, Thomas, Butler, Phillips and Murray, I believe, although we will get apologies and substitutions read out in a minute. Also present from the officers are Leanne Ashmore, Director of Development and Economic Development, Andrew Pegram, the Service Manager for Planning, Rebecca Sells, Principal Solicitor, Tracy Coop, Democratic Services Officer, and last but not least, to my right, Planning Officer Emily Dodd, who will be presenting the application this afternoon. Firstly, some basic housekeeping issues. No fire alarm is expected this afternoon. If it does sound, then follow the exit signs through the doors to the assembly point in the car park, or if you're not sure about that, follow one of us and you're not go far wrong. If you could turn your mobile phones to silent or mute, that would be a big help, because sometimes we forget them. They are a bit of a distraction. So, item 1 on the agenda is the apologies for absence and substitute members. Could we go through that, please, Tracy? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Purdue-Boren, Councillor Clark and Councillor Gowland, and substituting we have Councillor Phillips, Councillor Butler, Councillor Murray, and we also have Councillor Jones here this afternoon as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The second item on our agenda is the usual declarations of interest. Are there any declarations under the Code of Conduct or the Planning Code? Don't see anybody, so I take that as no. Item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting held on Thursday, the 12th of August. Our members of the committee, and particularly those that were there on that day, agree that these minutes are correct, and if so, can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Proposed by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Mason. Thank you. So we can now move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is to discuss this afternoon's single planning application. As usual, I'd like to remind members and officers that I assume you've all read the reports in some detail, and ask that you don't repeat the same points if they've already been made, and that you keep your comments concise and relevant. This is a quasi-judicial meeting that should be conducted with the appropriate professionalism and behaviour, and only material planning issues should be debated. Firstly, if we could note the report of the Director of Growth and Economic Development, which gives an overview of the planning process and the application to be considered this afternoon. And the first application is, I shall read it out, application 21/01613/VAR, variation of condition 2, land of College Road, Sutton Bonington, Nottinghamshire, variation of condition 2, the approved drawings of Planning Commission 19/02559/VAR to reflect changes to approved plans, roof pitch to plot 1 lowered to reduce overall ridge height, porch design alteration. I don't think we've got anybody from the ward at the meeting, have we? Councillor Barney is not here, so I'm going to move swiftly on then to Emily Dodd on my right. If she could do the presentation of this application, Emily, and read any late representations that we received. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe the late representation has been circulated to members. There was just one late representation this time. So as Chairman has said, this application relates to a site in Sutton Bonington. So just for context, the site lies on College Road, where here. And to the south is the main settlement of Sutton Bonington and the conservation area down Marlpit Hill. If you carry on north along College Road, you eventually get to Kingston on Soar, and over to the very far west, way off your screen, is Westleague. So just for some context. So I'll just take you through some photographs now, Chairman. The picture in front of you at the moment is the corner of College Road and Marlpit Hill, and this is numbers 1 and 3 College Road, which are two fairly new dwellings that have been built within the last few years. We then go along College Road slightly. You can see just peeping over the hedge some scaffolding there, and that's our application site, which is referred to as plot 1. So there's plot 1 and plot 2. Plot 2 is this dark coloured timber building over to the right hand side that you can make out in the photograph, and that is almost complete now. And plot 1, as I say, is where you can see the scaffolding. Just going along to the front of the site, again the application site is just on the left hand side of the screen there, and behind the trees there. And now we can see the access way into the site. Application sites in the middle of the screen, and to the left is 1 and 3 College Street, and right at the back of the photo is a property called Wayside. The brief bit of history: Wayside was permitted in 2008 on appeal, and then we subsequently had the plots to the left hand side there, and then these two final plots which have come in 2018, and this application varies the design, or seeks to vary the design on one of those two plots. Just looking up the road now towards some of the buildings associated with the university campus, and then back down the road towards our application site, which is on the right hand side at the bottom of the road. The next set of photographs were taken a little bit earlier in the year when the case officer conducted their site visit. So as you can see on the left there, we're just at foundation stage on the application site, and we've got the property known as Wayside in the rear of the picture there. And scrolling around, looking towards 3 College Street and seeing the relationship with that property. And again, looking at number 3, you can see the scaffolding related to the current application. That's the entranceway into plots 1 and 3 with our site in the foreground there, just above where you can see the car. Application site on the left. This is the property that you saw in the previous photos, Chairman, that's now clad in the dark stained timber. So this is plot 2 of our permission, which is being constructed in accordance with the original plans. And then we've just spun around 180 degrees and looking back towards the road with our application site on the right hand side. So that just gives you an idea of the site. I'll take you through the plans now. This is what is currently proposed. So the application seeks to vary the approved plans condition to change the design of the property. As you'll see there, this property is entirely timber clad with zinc roof and then zinc porch feature and rear projection in zinc as well. The key differences from the previous application are the reduction in the pitch of the roof to a 30-degree pitch, some changes to the front porch, an introduction of a window at first floor on the southeast side elevation, a flue, and timber cladding on the end side elevations, the southeast and northwest elevations, which was previously proposed to be brick. And what we've just put together for you, just to help you in your consideration, officers have just put together a rough guide to you of the changes to the proposed plans over the years. I would just stress this is something we as officers have put together. It's not to scale. The scale is slightly off, but it gives you an idea of how the design has changed. So at the top of the screen is the original 2018 permission, quite traditional design. It then alters in 2019, which again was approved to the timber with the zinc extension. And then the current proposal is at the bottom of the screen there. So just to help you understand the differences. So I would stress that the principle's already been established. We've already established that the dwelling can be on the site, and we're just looking at those design and elevation changes. There's quite a variety of styles down College Road. There's no strong prevailing character. As I've said, it's outside of the conservation area and the area we would probably term as the main part of the settlement. And within this small development of 5 houses, there are a variety of styles within themselves that you've seen on the photographs. They're all individually designed. The current application respects the palette of materials that's on site and in the immediate area. And officers consider that it is acceptable in its appearance and not out of character with the area. Accordingly, Chairman, officers are recommending that planning permission is granted subject to conditions. The only condition I would draw members' attention to is condition 2, which is on the final but one page of the report, which states the development should be not proceed beyond damp-proof course level until further details of facing, roofing and fenestration have been approved. Now, as we've seen from the photos, the site has progressed beyond that level, and so, Chairman, I would be proposing that we slightly alter the trigger point on that condition if members are minded to grant permission, and if officers can be given permission to just alter that trigger so it's not the damp-proof course level trigger. Thank you. Chairman, would you like me to stop sharing the screen?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, Emily. We have 2 speakers and 1 written submission this afternoon. The first speaker, I believe, is a Judith Evans, the applicant. The second is a Jan Scoyles, the objector. And Councillor Matt Barney, the ward councillor, has sent a written representation which will be read out by Rebecca Sells. So, if the first speaker, Judith Evans, would like to come to the table in front of me, Judith, when you're comfortable and settled, you can then press the microphone button. It will light up with a red, and then from then on, you have 5 minutes. We will time you, and we'll give you an indication when you've 30 seconds left. So when you're comfortable, the floor is yours.
Originally, Originally, the outline plan that came with Plot 1 College Road, Sutton Bonington, was for a property with dormer windows. After having spoken with my architect, I decided to apply for planning to have the style of the house altered. This was approved in accordance with a clause in my purchase contract, whereby the original owner granted me permission to go ahead with the changed build. However, I soon discovered that it was not only the ground plan I needed to be aware of, and didn't realise that I had to obtain permission for the overall height to be changed. The new owners of the property to the rear of my plot advised that they didn't want the roof to be so high as it could cause a loss of light to their property. And that also, I had breached the covenants within my purchase contract, but they were sure that we could come to some arrangement to overcome their fears. Following these plans, the neighbours requested a strip of land from my plot in return for their approval. Unfortunately, negotiations broke down due to me feeling that my generosity was being abused, and it is possible that the objections have now become a boundary dispute rather than planning. I consulted a solicitor who advised that an amicable route would be to apply to have the roof pitch lowered to accomplish an overall height of that on the original outline plan. By taking the overall height back to the original height, this should allay any fears that the neighbours may have, and this is my reason for requesting this variation. This has also been objected to. I am assured by my architect and builders that many roofs have 30-degree pitches, and contrary to my architect's earlier comment of not looking very pretty, they actually do not look out of place at all. It is believed that higher pitches tend to make a property look somewhat grander. So the 30-degree pitch would not look out of place or lower any standards within the village of Sutton Bonington. I understand the planning officer is more than happy with the proposals as discussed with my architect, However, I cannot say that I've seen a copy of the report. The proposed porch design alteration does not make it an enclosed porch, which I think people have believed it would. It will remain open on two sides, but will provide protection to one end from any windy or rainy weather. It is my intention, and therefore on all the plans submitted, to use only obscure glass in all bathroom and toilet areas, which encompasses the new small window. The new owners of plot 2 do not have any problems with any aspect of the appearance of my building and have not made any objections at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well within time. Thank you. Yes, you go. We'll just take the opportunity to sanitize the microphone before the next speaker. No, that's fine. Are you okay with the procedure? No, that's fine. Just press the button when you're ready. The light comes on. Got 5 minutes, and we'll give you the sort of 30 seconds warning if you're coming to the end of the 5 minutes. So whenever you like.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I live immediately behind the property, as Mrs. Evans mentioned, at Wayside. This is a small community of currently 4 considerately designed homes, which are accessed via our shared private driveway on College Road. I and my partner, along with 3 of my neighbours, object to the lowering of the roof pitch to 30 degrees, as did Ward Councillor Matt Barney and Sutton Bonington Parish Council. In relation to the roof pitch, even the applicant's own architect who submitted the designs we are discussing has said in the email you have seen that 30 degrees doesn't look very nice. Despite having this information, I find it frustrating that the planning officer's report doesn't really address the visibly obvious reduction in roof pitch from around 45 degrees to 30 degrees. It rather misses the point when he only addresses the lowering of the roof height. A major visual side effect of lowering of the roof height is a reduction in its pitch. This hugely impacts the overall look of our collection of houses, which are otherwise 40 to 45 degree pitched homes, and this should be given more consideration. To be clear, we have no issue with a reduction in height because it is, as the planner has said, a return to a similar height to that which was granted permission in 2018. The difference is the 2018 proposed pitch was more sympathetic and in keeping with these 4 neighbouring properties, and this is key. A key consideration in Policy 1 of LPP2 is that the development should be sympathetic to the character and appearance of neighbouring buildings. One perverse outcome of the building owner, Daylaker Healthcare Limited, deciding to apply for planning permission in retrospect is that we are able to see how this house now sits amongst our 40 to 45 degree pitched homes. The shallow roof pitch clearly distracts from the overall look and feel of our community. Under Section 2 of Policy 10, the development should be assessed in terms of massing, scale and proportion, and a 30 degree pitch puts the property starkly at odds with its 4 neighbouring properties. It very obviously looks squat and I think out of place. The planning officer refers to different styles within the development, but as with most homes, the roofs are the dominant feature of their external appearance. Get the roof pitch wrong and the whole design looks odd. And Daylaker's building does look odd, as you cannot see any other shallow pitched roofs from the point on College Road. The planning report also states that Policy 10 Section 2G is satisfied here. However, the architectural style is questionable. As already mentioned, the architect himself said in an email to Mrs. Evans, who's the director of Daylaker, that a 30 degree roof pitch doesn't look very nice. And this email, when read as a whole, strongly suggests that the 30 degree roof pitch is not driven by a design preference by either the applicant or the architect. And for the record, the reduced roof pitch and lowered roof height doesn't in any way resolve the covenants that Mrs. Evans has alluded to. That's a completely separate issue. Please recognise the desire that I, my partner, my neighbours, Councillor Matt Barney, Sutton Bonington Parish Council, as well as the efforts made by previous owners, the planning professionals and architects to ensure that this development remains a cohesively designed collection of family homes, which our small community really look forward to enjoying long into the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Again, well within time. Now, our third speaker would have been Councillor Matt Barney, who represents Sutton Bonington Ward for the Borough Council, but he's unfortunately can't make this afternoon, but he has sent a written representation which Rebecca Sells will now read out on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Barney writes, Dear Planning Committee, my sincere apologies that I am unable to give this statement in person at today's committee, but I am keen to share with you the views of the Parish Council and I regarding this application. These views are also shared by the neighbours who will be most affected by this proposal. The application relates to the last of 5 character dwellings to be built in a small hamlet of 5 distinct properties in this rural location. The previous 4 dwellings, while built at different times and by different builders, all share a number of key design attributes that form the basis of a highly attractive and cohesive rural development. The most striking of these characteristics being the shared steep 40 to 45 degree roof pitch. This fifth dwelling now introduces an alien roof pitch that is at odds with the other surrounding properties. It is also significantly shallower than the pitch of any other dwelling that I can think of in Sutton Bonington. The difference is striking, and this difference can be clearly seen as the applicant has gone ahead and built the framework for this dwelling, making this a retrospective application. As such, this dwelling has a somewhat Canadian New World feel about it that the parish, neighbours and I feel is at odds with vernacular of what is otherwise a very clearly cohesive community of country properties. Whilst I accept that this new design undoubtedly provides larger upstairs rooms, I would suggest to the Planning Committee that it constitutes an inappropriate and clear departure from the original plans approved by this committee and the design of neighbouring properties. My apologies again that this statement is not given in person.
Thank you. Before we go into the debate, I always ask if there's anything that the planning officer wants to comment on about any points made by the speakers. Is there anything you pick up there, Emily, you want to mention?
Thank you, Chairman. I think one of the speakers mentioned they felt the issue of the roof pitch hadn't been addressed thoroughly in the officer report. We've also talked about the fact that the roof would be lowered. The pitch will change from the steeper original proposal to a 30-degree pitch. Design, as we always say, is subjective. People always have different opinions on it. I think an officer's point of view is that we strive for some variety in developments. To my mind, this is not out of character. It's different, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is unsympathetic or out of character. The materials and other precautions reflect what is around it, and I think that's really the point that perhaps we need to be taking through from the officers' committee report, is that it's accepted that it looks different, but that those 5 dwellings are all slightly different, and that necessarily isn't necessarily a bad thing to have that variety on the site. It's not in the conservation area. It doesn't have a particularly strong character along the rest of College Road. You read those 5 dwellings as their own little development there. So I hope that just adds a little bit more to the report, Chairman.
Not at the moment, no. I think we've had the 5 minutes and the debate will start now. So members of the committee, I think we're ready to start the discussion on the application, make a decision. So who wants to start the debate this afternoon? Come on, somebody wants to start the debate, I'm sure. Councillor Butler, I think you've just been Councillor Bailey.
I'm not really starting debate, just one of the photographs. Can we have a look? Just so I'm just getting my bearings right again. One of the photographs that showed the corner of College Road and Malpit Hill. Because the plan we've got here doesn't show dwellings, does it, on the paper copy we've got here? But those, yeah, that's the one. So those are relatively new, aren't they? So that's why they don't appear on the
Yes,
plan
so they're not
here.
on the plan yet because they've only been built. Yes,
Right.
You're quite right, quite recent.
Okay, so those are new
recently.
dwellings. And also there was a photograph of the college buildings. Can we just have a quick look at that? So, yeah. So that is, or those are they're on the opposite side of the road, on College Road, then, aren't they? Just so I'm getting my bearings right here. Yeah. Oh right. Yeah. Okay. Got that. Fine. Right, I really just wanted that just to remind myself what was there at the moment in terms of buildings and roofs and things. So I might come back with it.
Okay. Councillor Bailey, I think you were next to the hand.
I'm sure we'll come back into the roof pitch, but my query was the additional window on the southeast elevation. Would I be right in thinking that that would be perhaps, it's a long rectangular window, would that be sort of on the landing, or would it be, what room in the house would it be? Or if it was on the staircase? No, perhaps not.
It serves an ensuite.
Ensuite.
Looks to be en suite.
And that would be sort of the glazing would be obscured, wouldn't it? Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Mason.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've listened to both sides this afternoon. I have to say, I thought that part of our policy was that houses would be different and that wouldn't all be exactly the same. And I certainly know where I am in Tollerton and along my lane, you struggle to find two houses vaguely similar. And we've even got one now very modern with a flat roof and different looks to them. I am struggling to think of the look of it, and it might have been helpful to have a sort of more of a floor plan of the other houses that are nearby and what they look like. I do notice that this is a very nice green area, and I couldn't see an awful lot of the houses that were actually going to be there. Can I just have a look at one of them again? Just a picture of this is the house that's on the same plot, and understand why they are so different. One is different and all the rest are the same. I don't believe that that's quite the case, that there is some difference in them. Is that anything? Because I know sometimes when you are on larger sites, particularly, you get different types of housing next door to one another. It can be a bungalow, houses, with different pitched roofs. So I'm struggling to find a reason to object to the plans that I see before me. Because houses are different, and certainly whether it's the village or in any other area, they do look different. And certainly when you see the roof that it's on, maybe it would look a bit more with a roof a bit more pointy up and the angles slightly different. But I have to say, I see a lot of houses that I don't particularly think I would want. So at the moment, unless I hear anything else, I'm of a mind to agree with the officers on this.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Anybody else wishes to comment?
We've established, I think, that the house styles are all different. And usually the complaint would be about the height of the building. Is there anything massively different about the cladding, and is the issue of the 30-degree roof structurally an issue in terms of weather and whatever? I mean, I accept that it looks a bit bland on its first presentation, but in what way does it fit with the others in terms of cladding?
Thank you. So it's proposed to be timber clad, The adjacent property, which was plot 2 of the original permission, which we saw in the photographs, is timber clad and is stained a very, very dark black brown colour with a zinc roof. So this would be similar in that it would have the zinc roof and the timber cladding. I'm not aware that we've been given a timber stain colour at this point, which is why we've got the condition on at the end. But in that sense, there would be similar materials to what we have been approved on plot 2 next door to it.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, actually, Councillor Jones has touched something that I was, or mentioned something I was going to touch on, and that is the slight irony of this application is the fact that it is talking about reduction in height of a building. Now, normally on this committee, we hear about applications where people are concerned about a building that's going to be higher than neighbouring buildings. So it is a slightly unusual, different one, this, but then that shows the variety and joy of planning. So that's an interesting point. We also heard from the speaker quite a lot about matters that really aren't relevant to planning, such as issues with land ownership and covenants and so on and so forth, which we really can't get involved with on the planning decision. But I'm rather minded to think that agree with Councillor Mason's suggestions that variety is something that we as an authority go for, rather than having identical. I'm not saying they would be identical, but rather than having, for want of a better word, very similar appearances. So personally, I don't think that the reduction in angle is a significant problem or disadvantage to the neighbouring properties, and also allowing for the fact that further on the road you've got those unusual roofs of the college building, and also the new houses on the corner as well, which are different again. So I don't know whether Councillor Mason was proposing making a recommendation, but I'll hand back to. Well, okay, well, with that in mind then, Mr. Chairman, with those comments, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
So if there's nobody else who wanted to speak, we have a recommendation to move the recommendation of the report, seconded, I think, by Councillor Mason. So we have a valid recommendation, a proposal, and can we take it to the vote then, I think? Can I ask Mrs. Sells to conduct the vote?
Thank you, Chair. Can I just check you're happy with the amendment to condition 2, which will happen?
Indeed, I should have made it clear, along with the recommended changes to the recommendation, to the conditions, yes, please.
Yeah, and Councillor Mason's happy with that. Okay, thank you. All in favour then, please, by show of hands. That's 11, Chair, unanimous. So the motion carries.
Thank you. The motion is carried unanimously. So thank you, everybody. That concludes this afternoon's meeting. There is a training session immediately afterwards. So those of you who have said you'd like to stay for that, you'll be more than welcome. Is there appeal? I'm sorry, my apologies there. There is one item on an appeal, papers and for information. Has anybody got any comment they want to make about that report on the appeal? Yes, Councillor.
Well, personally, I'm quite pleased it's upheld that appeal, but other than that, the report's very full. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Right, Leanne, are we staying in this room, or that's where we're staying put, are we? Excellent. I'll hand over the chair to you, I think. Thank you.
They did just say leave the screen. We did very well, but it all depends on IT, doesn't it? Panic moments if the IT doesn't work. Still a bit of feedback to that everywhere.
Still in the meeting, yeah.
Still leave the screen. Was it? It's gone.
I'm in the Zoom meeting. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. You know what you're doing.
Still in the meeting, it's echoing.
Yeah, I feel the, Thank you for coming. There you go.
And to a certain extent, yes, to a certain extent.